Okay, we're live, Chair.
One moment, just finishing up. Right, good afternoon everybody. Thank you for your patience and welcome to today's meeting of the People Scrutiny Committee. First of all, do I have any apologies for absence?
Chair, we have apologies from Councillor Maria Stevens, who is being substituted today by Councillor Peter Strong, and we also have apologies from Councillor Simon Howarth.
Lovely, thank you. I'm also aware that for the public open forum section, we're joined by 4 councillors who don't normally sit on this committee, but who are interested in what we're going to be hearing. That's Councillor Tony Keir, Councillor John Crook, Councillor Jill Bond, and Councillor Sue McConnell. Any declarations of interest? No, good. Right, we will move on to our public open forum then. And today we are joined by Jenny Powell, who's the chair of the Gathering Community, and Scott Price, who is their treasurer. They're going to give us a presentation on the work that the Gathering has been doing at Tudor Street in Abergavenny thus far, and then we'll open up to some questions after that. All right.
Thank you very much for having us. So a lot of you are probably aware of the Gathering Community, but we will do a little rundown. So our aim of the Gathering was to get into Tudor Street and provide an accessible service for people with disabilities, mental health, and just general wellbeing activities. So we've got the 12-month lease. We took over the keys on the 15th of January. So this little presentation that we've put together here is some before and after photos and some statistics on what the progress of our endeavour is. So next slide. So the story so far, March 2020, COVID-19 pandemic, the centre closed. Since then, we've done a lot of campaigning. Obviously, there's a photo there of one of the campaigns. November, Monmouthshire County Council announced plans to demolish the building, and we've fought since then. So yeah, there we go. January, we've got our 12-month lease. And as part of that 12-month lease, we need to do quarterly reports. A copy is here. And if anyone is interested in receiving a copy, I can email it to you as well. Next slide, please. So when we took the lease, there's some photos there of the condition of the building. So we had broken windows, we've had a very overgrown garden, we had random furniture and bits and pieces left there for us, and we had a broken water pipe which resulted in one of the ceilings going down in one of the rooms. Next slide, please. So in the first 6 weeks, we thoroughly cleaned and revarnished the kitchen. Our main hall was cleaned and cleared of items that were left behind, and we've managed to put in what we're calling a comfy corner. So we've got a couple of sofas and armchair there, which is nice and comfy for people just to relax in. Our corridor and entranceway was cleaned and painted. The toilets were fully cleaned. Classroom space 1 was set up for some craft activities away from the main centre as well. We managed to get the electrical safety certificate and handover completed. There was a slight delay in that process, purely because someone wasn't available initially to hand over the electrical certificate. They thought it had been done, but it hadn't, so there was a little bit of confusion there. I met with someone who showed us how to use the boiler as well, slightly later than the handover on the 15th of January. We done a lot of clearing in the garden space. There's a kitchenette and a back room which has been cleaned and cleared, so that's now a usable space. The fire safety equipment tests were completed and replacements were booked in to replace the ones that needed replacing, and the existing group and activities were moved over to Tudor Street from the Wick, which is where we were providing the service. So that all happened in the first 6 weeks. So the first group we had in there was on the actual 6 weeks from the AGM. So next slide, please. So in our business plan, we had stated that we were going to clean up and occupy half of the building. We wanted to increase attendees and volunteers. We wanted to increase the number of days that we were open. We wanted to obviously achieve grants to help maintain the building and do some maintenance in there, and we wanted to create a sensory space. So actual achievements, we've got 76% of the building occupied, which is 16 out of the 21 rooms. The rooms that aren't currently occupied are the room where the water leak was, and that's because we're waiting on repainting that, and then it'll be usable. The main back room where the ceilings were flooded, where the flat roof joins the other roof, there was issues there, and the builders are booked in next week for them to come and repair that, so that we'll have that room up and running. Our attendees have increased by 50%, and our volunteers have tripled in numbers. We've increased to a Wednesday, and we're also doing a Warm Hub on the Wednesday, which we received Warm Hub funding for. A total of £900 to be able to open on a Wednesday and provide affordable meals and warm refreshments for people on those days. We've achieved £5,563 in grants, and the dates, the figures here are including April, whereas the statistics that we've got on the paper document doesn't include April's figures, because that's the first quarter. We're now going into the second quarter. So we achieved £2,150 in fundraising over 2 different events. We've achieved £3,239.16 from attendance fees and sales of items that we've got on sale, and we've spent a total of £12,610.97. The money that we've spent out are on the repairs, getting plumbers, electricians, painting,
fire
extinguishers, cleaning products, and ongoing products and things that we've needed for that. And that does include the spending out for the roof, which is costing £3,000. So that's what we've managed to spend at the moment to achieve the occupancy that we've got. Next slide, please. Here we've got a little pie chart, because I know a lot of people like a little pie charts. So our income is 59% of grants, 23% on attendance fees, 10% on fundraising, and 9% income from our cafe that we've got. So yeah, next slide, please. So here we've got some photos of fundraising events that we've done. So we've got the Writing Festival. We've had Kaz, who is our resident singer. She does singing lessons with some of our attendees. So we had a lovely buffet and singing night as well. We had a little Easter egg hunt, and inflatable bunny came to join us for that. But there are also photos included here of general everyday activities that are happening because they couldn't happen where we were before. So we've got a little pool table there, we've got socialising at a cafe, we've got the nice comfy corner as well shown there. The writing festival was a massive success. In the writing festival, we had the cafe open, we had 2 separate rooms being used. One was for talks and one was for workshops, and that raised a fantastic £1,500 on ticket sales, and the cafe element and things as well. So that was absolutely fantastic. Next slide, please. So here we've got a compilation now of before and after photos. So as you're looking at that, that is the back room where the roof has been leaking above the windows. As you can see, it's still reasonably cluttered. However, a lot of items have been taken out of that room in preparation for the work to be done. And we've got a lot of furniture in there ready to be set out in more of a classroom opportunity to messy crafts and woodwork. Clay, painting, things like that in there. Next slide, please. So this is our sensory space. So as you can see on the left, it just had a yellow sofa and 2 little armchairs in there. What we've managed to do is pop up a little partition wall and create a nice soft space. We've got projectors and various lights going in there, as well as sensory board and music instruments and things as well, so they can be used for stimulation and relaxation, both at different times or together. Next slide, please. Here, that was a storage space, and we've now incorporated a little bit of a music room. So we've got the drum set up, and we've also got a keyboard in that room. So there's a little space available for people to just go and hang out and make as much noise as they want, if they want to, or try and compose some little music sets. Next slide, please. So here, this is the room with a kitchenette at the back of the building. Previously, its purpose was it had some computers, it had a TV, it had a sofa, but it was left with just some sort of tables and chairs in there, and the hoists were removed. And the photo then that we've got is from the writing festival, where you can see lots of attendees of the writing festival enjoying a workshop and enjoying the size of the room and the space that's in there. Next slide, please. So this is where transformation really happens, is the outside space. As you can see on the left, significantly overgrown. The bush that's in the front and to the right on the one photo there has completely been hacked back so that the exit from the conservatory can be used in front of those windows there on the right, and the fire exit from the main corridor as well. So that's all been hacked back to make use of the outside space. Next slide, please. This is also what's going on in the courtyard space. So we've got some raised beds that have been made. We've got some little greenhouses there. So we're in the process of planting up some tomatoes and things like that. And we're in the process of having a compost bin being made as well. So any food waste that we've got from the cafe will go out into the compost and help us to produce some nice fruit and veg ready for the summer season. Next slide, please. Now this space is directly behind the kitchen. It was significantly overgrown. It has been hacked back, and actually since that photo was taken, we've had things planted in there. So yesterday we've got, I believe there's cauliflowers, beans, carrots, I think potatoes have been planted in there, which were started off-site and moved in so that we can then start getting the produce, and hopefully it'll grow and expand more from there as well. Next slide, please. This space here was a bit of a storage space, from what I can tell. It's now been turned into a shop. So in the shop we've got some books for sale, we've got things that some of our attendees have made and things that have been donated to us that we could upcycle. So for example, we've had some little wooden boxes donated to us, and some of our attendees have painted little decorations on there. We've put lights and decorations on glasses. We've made jewellery. You can see there's crochet bags and things on the side there. So yeah, we've got quite a nice little range of things in there that are both activities for the attendees, and it also gives people the opportunity to get a bit of work experience of working in a shop. So that's that space. Next slide, please. This is before in the main room. As you can see, there's not much furniture left in there. There were some comfy sofas which were removed prior to us going there because they didn't have the fire safety, so they were not able to be left there. So when we got there was a few tables and a lot of random bits and pieces that were left, some of which was useful because there was some poster paints that were perfectly usable and bits and pieces like that, but then we also had random empty boxes, so some not so useful. So that's the before photo. If we go to the next one, and that's the after. So we've got it set up into a couple of different sections. So we've got the cafe tables on the front. We've got more sort of activity tables for people who want to come in and do their own thing. On the far left corner there, you can just about see the sort of comfy corner where we've got 2 sofas and coffee tables and an armchair. Over in front of the conservatory windows by there, we've got like a little bit of a library. We've got a nice seating area where people can sit and relax. We've got a selection of games that people can play. We've got a table football, and we've got a little pool table as well. And then you can also see there the cafe shop entrance there, so that people can come up and say, "Oh, I'd like a cuppa, please." And you know, we're getting some of our attendees experience in working in the shop space, so that they can make cups of tea and sell them to the friends and the rest of the attendees that are in the building that day, or the general public that are welcome to attend the cafe itself anyway. Next slide, please. This is where a fantastic opportunity has arisen for us. So this is a conservatory room off the main space, which also has its own access from the garden as well. This used to be what they would call the arts and crafts space, but as you can see, we've turned it up into a beautiful little counselling place where we've got on a Tuesday a counsellor. So at this point I'm going to hand over to Scott, and Scott is going to read a letter from our counsellor.
Hiya, I'm Scott. It's not working. Hiya, I'm Scott, the Treasurer of the Gathering. I'm going to read a letter from Emily Watson, who is our resident counsellor. She She says, hello councillors, my name is Emily Watson and I am proud to be volunteering with the gathering. I've been asked to tell you a little bit about what I have been doing and how I have been contributing to the group. I am a qualified counsellor registered with BACP and I have my own private practice which I run from my home in Gilwan. I began volunteering with the gathering last year when I happened to see on Facebook they had successfully campaigned to move the group into Tudor Street. After discussions with the trustees, I agreed to volunteer as the resident councillor and wellbeing manager for the gathering, running activities every Tuesday. The concept was to create a space on a Tuesday where people who are struggling with their mental health can come, spend the day, make friends, join in activities and chat to a counsellor confidently if they need. The goal would eventually be to have more counsellors on site and become a mental health hub for vulnerable people in our town. So we have started off like this. Every Tuesday morning we have Word of the Day activity where a member picks a word related to a feeling or an experience, and as a group. Everyone is encouraged to participate in exploring what the word means to them. For example, past words discussed have been happy, peaceful, crisis, hopeful. This simple activity gives our members the opportunity to talk about feelings in an accessible way in a safe, non-judgmental space. It has an amazing impact, creates a wonderful atmosphere and helps people feel included. Comment from a member. After this activity, I take time to walk about the building, chatting with members, volunteers and carers. This is also the time where anyone can have a confidential chat with me in the therapy room. This really has been an essential space for confidential chats and where anyone who visits can receive confidential support. We are proud that many people, whatever their reason for attending the gathering, have taken up the opportunity for one-to-one support. Everyone is aware of the time it can take to access mental health services, yet at the gathering we are creating a space where people can come, be themselves, make friends and feel supported. During the afternoon, I run a short, accessible mindfulness exercise for whoever wants to attend. For example, today we did breathing exercises and calming and visualization activity. Everyone told me they felt very relaxed afterwards. Supporting people by giving them the tools to regulate their nervous systems and mental well-being is a way which the gathering can impact the lives of members long after sessions have ended and they return home. So although we have only been going a short time, the mental health support activities available to members on a Tuesday, which run alongside all other activities, are ensuring a truly holistic approach to well-being of members. I am genuinely excited to build on what we have started and will continue to work with Jenny, the trustees and members to shape an inclusive service where everyone feels and knows that they are someone worthy of support. Thank you.
This space here is what we're sort of calling the back kitchen. So back when it used to run as a service sort of in the 70s, 80s and beginning of the 90s, this used to be the commercial kitchen space, and we're sort of trying to introduce it back into being a bit of a commercial kitchen where cooking lessons can take place so that the produce that we're growing can be learnt about through the growing process and through into the cooking process as well, and people can experiment with different types of food that they may not have experienced before. I've been talking to a few chefs in the area, and they're quite interested in sort of coming over and doing like little one-day introduction to Jamaican cooking, one-day introduction into Indian cuisine and things like that, so that there's opportunities for people to learn from specialists as well as just general everyday cooking skills that they can improve upon. So this space here has been started to be converted into more of a commercial space. We've got to decorate, we've got to replace the flooring, we've got the stainless steel equipment now, we've got a nice cooker, so it just needs to be reconfigured, decorated and thoroughly cleaned through so that we can start that progress, which will hopefully be in the next couple of months. Next slide, please. So that brings us to the end of our presentation there. I hope it's opened your eyes up to the important things that we're doing and the things that we're planning to do over the next couple of months as well.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you both. And, thank you for making me so welcome whenever I've come to visit. And I have been so impressed by what you're achieving. Right. Does anybody have any questions? Councillor Edward.
Thank you, Chair. Firstly, can I just say thank you for coming along today to provide councillors with an update on how you're doing as a group. I mean, I must admit, there must be plenty of community groups out there must be very envious of what you've achieved in such a short time, especially the 160 attendees and involving 15 volunteers as well. Absolutely amazing. I've only been a councillor for about 4 years, and I imagine it's not very often that we see a success story like this. You can certainly all hold your heads high as to how you've put body and soul into this campaign and turned around what most of us thought was devastating news for Tudor Street at the time. But you turned this around. It has been a bit of a saga as it unfolded at the beginning of this term, but you've done an absolutely amazing job. One final thing I would like to say, though, is I do hope that whether it's already been carried out or planned for the future, and that's the need for everyone to learn from this, not only the council but yourselves as well, to learn from your experience, both good and bad, so we can all learn from this. So well done, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Councillor Powell.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, it is wonderful to see it happening. I was so sad when it looked as though the building was going to be left and not used again, because it's a good spot and it's somewhere for people to go. And I really do admire how you've done so much in such a short time, really, because it isn't a very long time. And if you can achieve that, then what else can you achieve? It's and it's so good to have somewhere for people to go that do need help or just need companionship, not to be left on their own. It's amazing, and I must congratulate you all and hope everything goes well in the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Butler.
Thank you, and I'm going to do that councillor thing where I say I associate myself with the comments of the two previous councillors, because I couldn't have put it better than either of you, Councillor Edwards and Councillor Powell. And really just to say, Diane, you're doing a fantastic job. I am really impressed. And I mean it most sincerely, because I'm actually a secretary on a small community centre here in Goitra. And we've been going through a similar process in the last 6 months or so. So I feel your pain, really. I noticed that you've got a 12-month lease. And my question really is that a rolling lease based on your end of year report? Will it automatically renew if things continue to be successful? And the other question is, about the lease really is has this been given free of charge by Monmouthshire for the first 12 months or longer? And assuming your continued success, will it continue to be free of charge? or does that have a time limit and a point where you will have to start paying Monmouthshire County Council for a lease? And again, same topic, so this sounds like a lot of questions, but it's pretty much the same thing. Has Monmouthshire actually assisted you in any way, for example, with the roof repairs, the electrical safety, fire safety? All of you needed to get grants for this, and if so, has Monmouthshire supported you in helping you to get those grants? And the final one really is an observation, really. You've got an awful lot of space there, and I think you said you've got a total of 21 rooms and you're already in 16 of those. It seems like an awful lot of space to manage, and you do seem determined to open it all up and use it, but might you be better doing this in a sort of phased manner? You might be biting off perhaps a little bit more than you can chew. But fantastic. I'm so pleased to see this, because I think we were all devastated by everything that happened. So it's really good to see this, have this report. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll try and answer all of your questions. Forgive me if I forget any. So we've got a 12-month lease, and it's on the grounds of we need to provide proof and evidence that there is a need and it can become a sustainable project for the foreseeable future, and towards the end of this year, that's when the decision will be made. I'm assuming it'll be Landlord Services and Ian Chandler, who are the ones that have been dealing with us to get this process. With regards to rent, we are paying 20% of what the rent would be. So our lease should have been £10,880 for the year. On top of that, we're paying the council building insurance as well. So we're paying £315 each month to accommodate the space. The council helped us in regard of making sure that the fire safety and boiler were fit for use prior to us moving in, and they did do a little bit of work on that as well. We have then got somebody who works for Monmouthshire supporting us to make sure that we're able to apply for grants and things like that. It is a difficult progress because we've only got a small lease, so we can only apply for grants up to a certain amount. Everywhere that we're sort of, can we have some money to spend on the building? We're getting no's because we haven't got a guarantee that the building is going to be there in 12 months' time. So we are only able to get small pockets of funding. We are having a lot of local businesses supporting us and doing a lot of the work at a very reasonable low price cost for us. Some we've only paid for materials, and they've done work for us to help us to get in. I totally understand what you mean about taking on too much and trying to get all the rooms used and filled. The point that we wanted to make when we were saying this building is usable was because there was only 2 rooms that weren't usable in our eyes, and that was because of the leaking roof and the commercial kitchen side of things, and that's purely because of inappropriate flooring. But a lot of the people who are interested in coming and want to do activities involve people wanting to use clay, wanting to paint, wanting to do cooking. So they're things that people want to do and want to do them at affordable prices, and that's what we're sort of aiming at achieving. So we do charge a small fee for people to come in. The cafe, people can come in and off the street, and they can come in and have a cuppa, they can have a sandwich, jack and potato, whatever is on the menu that day, without having to pay a fee. We've got some small activities as well, so we've got like a bingo session, so people can come in, pay £1, have a game of bingo, potentially win a prize if they're successful in doing that. But to join in other activities, then we are charging a small fee, whether they stay half day, whether they stay full day. So they pay to come in, and they can participate in any of the activities that are going on. We tried running the service in just one room, and because people want to do a variety of things, it's difficult, because you've got someone who wants to do keep fit, you've got someone who wants to sit quietly and do some art. You can't do that in one room. So we've really had to sort of get as many rooms open as possible, so that we can have the range of activities that people want to participate in. Yes, we could delay opening the other couple of rooms that are there, but I think we can do this. And having the roofers coming in next week and fixing that means hopefully by the end of May we'll have the opportunity to offer clay workshops, painting workshops, and they're not going to impact on other activities that are going on in the rest of the building. We've also had interest from people to come and run their activities in our space as well. So we've got links with Cornerstone Church. They're doing a youth club in the space in the evenings when we're not using it. We've got links down in Chepstow, Caldecott area with Ready Steady Go. They want to use space a couple of days a week to run activities to support the families and the children that they support, to help the young people without autism diagnosis. So they're going to be running various activities in one of the designated spaces that we've got, the room with the kitchenette. So they're actually, we're negotiating, they're injecting a little bit of money to do up that room and that space, and then, they're going to be using that space and supporting people in the north of Monmouthshire, the same as they do down in the south, which is such a valid thing as well. So, we're not doing this purely on our own. We are reaching out and having support from other organisations as well, to come together and make this space a valuable and community space for everybody. Was that all of your questions? I think so.
Thank you for that. I think you've given me an excellent answer. I am going to make an observation though, and this is perhaps more for the councillors that are in the room. Paying 20% of the rent actually I think is incredibly unfair. I think Monmouthshire could have given you a lease without asking you for that, because that's over £2,000 I think a year. And it's also giving you just 12 months. I can understand why 12 months has been given, but when you come to the end of this year, I think you need something a little bit more secure than that, which will give you, a rolling grant, so you will then be able to make those applications for capital funding, which you will undoubtedly need. So it's just a message really for other councillors who are here. But you've just come an awful long way in this time. So well done you, and thank you for your answers.
Councillor Jones.
Hi, yeah, I just want to add my congratulations. You've done so much, but on top of that, you're so organised, it's so planned. And you've got, you've got such ambition, and I can see it all coming to fruition eventually. So well done. But I just want to ask a question. A warm hug, is that how Wednesdays are advertised? And what does it mean? Does it mean that everybody is welcome, off the street or whatever, and they'll get, something warm and perhaps a hug as well? So
you might misheard me. It was a warm hub.
Hub, I thought you said
Yeah,
hug.
no. But anyone is welcome to come and have a hug as well. You know, some of our attendees, that is their thing. They come in like, hello, everyone, and give everyone a hug. You know, we are warm, we are welcoming. But yes, we got a Warm Hub grant of just over £900, and that's to provide warm meals and warm drinks to people who are in need of it. I believe there are a couple of other locations in Abergavenny who qualify and are classed as a warm hub as well, different days of the week. But yeah, people can come in off the street and you know, participate in any of our activities and have a warm meal if they feel that they need to. You know, there's not a criteria. We don't say to people, well, you know, maybe you can afford a meal. We don't question anybody. We are providing that for people with the funding that we've received for that. Okay.
And giving them a welcome.
Yes.
To be.
Yes.
Oh, thank you. Thanks. Thank you for everything.
Great. Councillor Peter Strong.
Yeah, thank you. I'm going to be a bit boring after that talk of hugs and so on. And obviously, I'd like to add my congratulations. And to my mind, the most impressive part of it all is the number of volunteers you seem to have been able to gather around you. I mean, any of us who run voluntary organisations know how difficult it is to recruit and perhaps above all retain volunteers to do all the different things that need doing, and so often it just falls on very few hands. So absolutely well done on that. And I think what you're doing is clearly becoming a model for what could happen in other parts of the county, and I'm sure a lot of people are watching that. I'm assuming I'm right in thinking it's all volunteers. There are no paid staff, and I see you nodding on that one. I'd like to drill down a little bit into the finances, really following on from what Councillor Butler had to say. Can you give us a sort of a rough estimate, ballpark figure, if you like, of your sort of revenue cost, your annual cost of keeping the place going with the various activities over the course of a year? What would be your main expense other than the rent, which is clearly a constant burden? So, question there about revenue costs, and then about capital. And I take your points about capital. Often when you're looking at capital spending, you're looking at what's urgent, what's got to be done tomorrow, next week, next month, or the roof falls in or whatever. So what urgent capital costs are you facing? And then what longer term capital costs would you be looking at? And what sort of lease would you need in order to attract the sort of grants that you're looking for? That's my questions. Thank you.
Yeah, okay. So our costs really are still a little bit of a grey area because the current gas and electricity is still going through landlord services. So we don't actually have a figure of what our gas and electricity bills are going to be. Our monthly outgoings, other than that,
It would be just for phone and internet.
yeah, so we're looking probably about £1,000 a month of expenses other than, gas and electric, including the rent and insurances. To sustain that, what we would like to do is we would like to employ somebody to manage the building on a daily basis. So that would come into capital costs and capital grants. We'd like to employ someone to sort of be a caretaker or a cleaner because, a lot of us are volunteers. A lot of our volunteers are elderly or have got health issues of their own. So to maintain a building of that size, it would be a great advantage to be able to get somebody coming in regularly and maintaining, cleaning to a higher standard for us, so we can concentrate on running the service and running various activities rather than chasing our tail with doing the cleaning element. But then, what was the next question? Sorry.
The urgent capital cost versus the longer term.
Yeah. So when we're looking at renewing the lease, we're trying to ask for a minimum of 10 years because a lot of feedback that we've had for capital grants is they want a minimum of 7-8 years before conversations can start, and the conversations with, for example, the National Lottery, you can be having conversations for a year, 12 to 18 months before getting any income from them. So you'd need to have that sort of 10 years in place so that you've still got 8 years left on the lease when an application actually goes through the process. So that's what we're fighting for, really, you know, and then until we've got information from Landlord Services or the department that we need to speak to regarding how much gas and electric, we're still not 100% sure what those additional costs are going to be. Does that answer everything?
Yes, that's the view. I much appreciate that, and we'll, you know, good luck on how that goes forward. I was going to say, yeah, come back to us when you get your gas and electricity bill. I hope it's not too much of a shocker. I'm suffering to pay it, by the way. But it will be interesting to get that fuller picture.
Yeah, hopefully the next quarter we'll have information on, you know, more information on that. You know, we have asked the question. We are just waiting for feedback. So, you know, hopefully the next quarter we'll have a better idea.
Make sure you're sitting down when you receive it.
Yeah.
Thanks very much for all that. That's lovely.
Great, thanks. Councillor Riley. You're on mute, Sue.
Am I off? Hi, Jenny, and hi, Scott. I just wanted to just pick apart some of the things that you've probably already answered. But well done, anyway, in case you missed that. I did say that earlier on mute. The figures you gave us, you've obviously spent £1,600 more than you've had in. So that's, again, straight away, that's a bit of a concern. You're on 59% grants, and I'm really pleased to hear that you've got somebody to help you with those, to reapply for those. What you your lease will expire in January, so what I want to know is when you have to negotiate the next lease, bearing in mind that you might have had 3 months of a very bad winter for all we know before that, and you've already had to spend 3k on a roof on quite an old building. So I suppose I'm a little bit concerned about how you will get grants, or depending on when you're negotiating for an extension, because all of those things might leave you with some urgent costs in a hurry. So one of the things also that you've said is that I know that you didn't want to make any charges for use or for service users using the building, but you do need to be sustainable, obviously. And people on PIP, really, to some extent, that is what they get it for, to give them some way of doing things, you know, in getting enjoyment, and that is to some extent. And I wonder if you've got anybody to help with people applying for benefits, etc., in the future. And I was just thinking, when Scott was talking about what he does, whether counselling is not easy to get hold of, and I just wondered if people could make appointments and perhaps make voluntary contributions during those periods. Just some ideas of how you are going to sustain yourselves, really.
So yes, you know, we are aware that we have spent more than we've brought in at the moment, and that is purely to get the building to a point where we can use as much of it as possible. We have got people who are looking to hire or use the space and pay for the space. which is in line with our rental agreement and our business plan that we've put forward to take over in the first place. So next month, for example, we're going to have various people using spaces in the evenings and actually paying us a rent. So even though we've spent out a lot, we have got income coming round the corner from using the space in the evenings and on weekends for that. We do have small fees to come in and participate on activities. We haven't got any sort of specialist out there that can help people to get on benefits and things like that. That is something that has been discussed. And something else that has been discussed in the past is to provide training opportunities for people as well. So we could put on courses that will help people to get jobs and things like that in conjunction with other people at affordable prices. So that'll hopefully be able to give us some sort of income from providing courses as well. But yeah, we are conscious that we need to make sure that we are spending money on the right things, and that we are looking at how we're going to make it a fully sustainable project, so that we don't have to keep going to people and asking for grants and things like that.
Could I just ask about, when you actually have to, when you start to renegotiate that lease, that's obviously crucial.
Yeah, we are in communication regularly with Nick Keys from Landlord Services about when we need to be sort of sitting down and negotiating this. So at the moment we're still sort of awaiting. I think they want to know especially the first sort of 6 months, how we're making it sustainable, and then we can start sort of putting to them, well, we've done this, we've done that, we've sort of managed to sustain it. We did fundraising events prior to getting it, which meant we had the money, so we're not in debt, we haven't had a bank loan or anything like that. Everything that we've spent, we've had that money in the bank to be able to spend it, or we've had the opportunity of a grant to help us to achieve that. We are building good relationships. We've built a good relationship with the Rotary Club, so they're actually paying for the roof. We've got a very good deal with a local builder who's doing it as cheaply as he possibly can to ensure that we can then utilise that and get in there to have the opportunity of renting that room out for various activities as well as doing our own activities. So I think after the sort of first 6 months that we've been in there, I think that's when Nick Keys is more willing to sort of start negotiating, extending the lease and seeing how it goes, basically.
Just one very, very quick one. Sorry, everybody. I just wanted, under those circumstances, should we be asking you to come back in maybe October to give us another update, so that perhaps we can ask him to come along?
Yeah.
Would that be helpful?
Yeah, that would, yeah.
So I'll just chip in that we are expecting a formal report on this later this calendar year. So some of these more technical questions around the rates that are being paid at the moment, or the renewal of the lease, I think I would expect to form part of pre-decision scrutiny when that report comes to us. So those more technical questions are probably more appropriate for that meeting, when we will have a cabinet member and officers here who will be able to give you that sort of detailed information. I'm just conscious that they're not here to give us those answers today, so I don't want to create like an information vacuum, but that will be coming, councillors. You will have that opportunity. Councillor Jackie Strong.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to say, I'm in admiration of the hard work, the creativity and the imagination that the group has has, you know, come to fruition. I mean, I'm just in awe, really. I mean, the volunteers, the wider group, and actually the people that are actually now coming to what you were calling like the gathering space and now the gathering community. I think that reflects how you're reaching out to not just possibly the groups that you were thinking of originally when you came up with a bit of the plan, but, you know, the Ready Steady Go people down in sort of Sevenside, and reaching out to other communities, to people that can actually use that space and give extra sort of value to local communities as well. My question is, because I know this when we looked at, you know, all the times when we visited the space, you know, sort of 2 years ago, whatever, one of the issues was around a change in space and an accessible space. And I know that we can't ask sort of technical things, but how are you along the road to making that accessible for people? Because I know that was a big thing. It's a big thing with us down on Sevenside because we haven't got that facility. So in order to make it accessible for a range of people with various disabilities, just sort of throw that out there. But well done. I'm just so proud of all of you. So well done. Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie. So the changing space, prior to us going there were hoists and changing tables in the toilet area that was there. Because they weren't serviced and things during the COVID and during the closure, which is completely understandable. They don't make the model of hoist that was in there anymore either, so they deemed them as being unsafe and they were removed. We've looked at how much it would cost to put that sort of equipment back in there. For a changing bed, you're looking at about £1,000. For a full tracking hoist, XY tracking hoist, you're looking at sort of £8,000 to £9,000. They're costs that at the moment we're not able to do. We're not able to access enough grant funding for that, purely because they are classed as capital. In, you know, adjustments to the building itself. So, you know, although we can sort of apply for small amounts to go towards it, we're not going to be able to achieve that in the 12 months that we've initially got. But that is definitely something that we want to do. By putting the sensory space in, we've got that space that's accessible for people. Like the entire building is wheelchair friendly. We are looking at getting locks on the doors, which aren't locks, they're props. That prop the door open because they're fire doors. So they prop the door open, and then if the fire alarm goes off, they automatically close, so that we can have people able to move around more freely without having to open and close the fire doors constantly as well. So, you know, we're currently looking at a grant to pay for those because they're about £100 each. So even if we could get them on just a couple of the main doors going through the building, that would be a fantastic opportunity. And I think that's what is going down on the town council grant, so that we can ask the town council to help us purchase some of those for those doors. We've been speaking to people who, the carers who do bring people in wheelchairs with them. We've discussed with them the sensory space, and discussed with them, you know, if we can get funding, we'll get a change in bed in place. And they've said that they've got mobile hoists that they can bring with them in the transport, so they can provide the hoist initially, so that they can at least get changed whilst they're there, and utilise the sensory space should they need hoisting. You know, and it is something that is on our radar, that we do want to get that in place. Okay.
Thanks for that. That's really sort of clear, and you know, I kind of knew that was the sort of direction of travel. But yeah, great. Thank you.
Councillors, any further questions? No, I'm not seeing any hands up. Right, okay, well, again, on behalf of us all, Jenny, Scott, thank you so much for coming today and for your time. That was an absolutely fabulous presentation. I am so excited by what you're achieving there. I think we all are. And yeah, again, thank you so much for your time. I will, well, be in touch again, no doubt. Sorry, we're just going to take a short sort of 5 or 10 minute break now, let's call it 10 minutes, and we'll come back as soon as possible, just to give our guests time to get themselves sorted and leave.
Yes.
Oh, could I just get some more? Could I just get some more water? Excuse me. Sorry, could you pass me the water jug? Right, councillors, thank you. Welcome back. We're now going to move on to item 4, which is the Apprentice Shared Construction Apprenticeship Scheme. And Hannah Jones is going to introduce this report for us.
Good afternoon, committee, and thank you, Chair. I'm going to briefly take you through the report, and then I'm happy to take some questions at the end. Sorry, it's just the mic position. Right, okay. So I'm going to talk to you about Apprentice Shared Construction Apprenticeship Scheme, which is a limited company by guarantee. In the report, we're proposing to close the scheme down, and the scheme then will become a project under CUFLA, which is a very similar shared apprenticeship scheme based in West Wales, a limited company by guarantee with charitable status. As you're probably aware, Apprentice, as a limited company, is joint shareholders of Melin Homes and Monmouthshire County Council, and Melin Homes provides support and management services for the apprentice for an annual fee. What we're looking to recommend is for you to scrutinise the report this afternoon, and hopefully the recommendations that have been outlined in the report. If I go on to some of the background information in regarding to the Apprentice scheme. Apprentice was set up in 2012, as I said earlier, Melin Homes and Monmouthshire County Council, because there was a clear need for more socially procured goods, services and work associated with the construction industry across South East Wales. The current board members for the scheme are Melin Homes, Monmouthshire County Council, Candleston Homes, Bronavon Community Housing, Link Cymru, Torfaen Borough Council, and Construction Industry Trade Board as advisory role, and our cabinet member for planning and economic development. The apprentice company currently employs an assistant programme manager, an apprentice coordinator and an administrator. It's important to highlight the key successes of Apprentice. The scheme has trained over 340 apprentices since its conception, secured more than 1.95 million in funding for training and employment, and has worked with 5 colleges across South East Wales, Coleg Gwent, Cardiff and the Vale, Coleg Cymru, Bridgend College and also Merthyr College, supporting apprentices to gain a level 3 qualification in carpentry, building, bricklaying, painting, decorating and groundwork, enabling skilled and qualified apprentices to enter into sustainable employment. The company has worked with 149 contractors / SMEs in sourcing apprenticeship placements over the past 5 years. The scheme runs to the academic year. It doesn't run as a roll-on, roll-off programme. So going back to September 2024, there were 60 apprentices on the scheme, and you'll see in the report the outline of where those are across each authority. To date, the scheme currently has 44 apprentices engaging on the programme. The programme has faced some clear challenges over the last few years, particularly around completion rates for our apprentices. As you're probably aware, there's no longer an equivalent level 2 qualification in construction. All learners complete a level 3 qualification, and that can take learners sometimes to some time to attain that. The other challenges facing the schemes is sourcing placements. So part of the shared apprenticeship scheme is the learners are on placement, on a number of placements throughout the scheme. Challenges in terms of sourcing the appropriate placements near to where the apprentices live. And there will have been times when apprentices there's been a considerable travel in time to those placements. The apprenticeship wage deficit, obviously with increases that are announced by UK government, has then put challenges on contractors in paying those salaries of those apprentices. Over the last 2 financial years, the company has incurred losses. Within the report, you'll see 24,311, 22,23, and 75,123, 23, 24. It was decided then back in July last year that we would carry out a review of the scheme. The review was carried out by Monmouthshire County Council and Torvine Borough Council to look at what could be the options going forward for apprentice. The review concluded 2 options: whether the company would cease operations or would continue to deliver, but through a redesigned delivery model. There was much debate by the board and a deliberation in terms of the way forward for the company. In terms of a delivery model redesign, would require strategic leadership support, and this was felt that it could be feasible at the time, but would need some clear consideration in terms of a resource. We reached out to Cardiff Capital Region, as we have had financial support from them in the past for the company, and there was an offer on the table in terms of an offer for financial offer and supporting apprentices and looking at apprentice through a commercial lens. This wasn't taken forward, and I'll come on to why that was as I go through the report. So then we come to January 2025, when Monmouthshire County Council were notified by Mellon Homes that they no longer wish to be a shareholder. As you're probably aware, I've referenced throughout my presentation to Mellon, but obviously from the 1st of April this year, as you're probably aware, Mellon has joined with Newport City Homes and now is heading. So going back to January, we then reached out to all our board members and consulted with those board members to see if there was a joint shareholder that was interested in coming in with Monmouthshire to support and deliver the scheme. And as I said earlier in my presentation, Mellon currently manage and support the scheme in the delivery of that scheme currently. So with Mellon withdrawing from apprentice, faced some additional challenges, and we felt it wasn't financially it wasn't viable an option for us to take forward purely through Monmouthshire County Council. We were then approached by Cyfla, and Cyfla is a shared apprenticeship scheme operating in West Wales, offering a very similar programme, and we're very keen to have a conversation with us and offered us an alternative option to consider. So if I go into the options contained within the report. So first option to consider that we close down the company. This, I feel, would have the risk in terms of those 44 apprentices I spoke of earlier not completing their qualification and unable to transition into sustainable employment, the redeployment of staff, and the risk of reputation. As I spoke earlier, there's been some real key successes of the company over the past 12 years. Second option we were to explore was closure of the company and transfer that over to MCC. But I think we feel after considerable deliberation, there is a clear risk of lack of knowledge and expertise in delivering a shared apprenticeship scheme. The lack of uptake in the current format of the scheme in Monmouthshire, as you see for the figures, is currently one young person on the scheme in Monmouthshire. Limitations on staff capacity for the amount of work needed, and perhaps too broad an area but too narrow one sector for future delivery of an apprenticeship scheme. I just wanted to come in here and say that as part of our economy, employment and skills strategy, one of our priorities is to develop a skills centre in Monmouthshire, meeting the needs of our children, our young people, our businesses and industry, and that is a current key priority for us. And then the third option, in terms of the closure of the scheme, and that ePrentice would be a project under CUFLA, which we believe is the preferred option. When I say we, us as Monmouthshire County Council and the ePrentice Board. This would enable the continued delivery of the scheme. There would be a seamless transition for staff and apprentices, and there would be a clear coordination of an approach across South East and the South West region. I just wanted to give you some information regarding CUFLA. As I said earlier, CUFLA is an established company and registered charity, a number of years of experience, knowledge and expertise, and successfully building shared apprenticeship schemes in West Wales since 2013, enabling apprentices to complete their qualification and transition to sustainable employment. As I said earlier, apprentice would be an umbrella under CUFLA, and CUFLA would provide that clear strategic leadership, performance and ownership. As you'll see in the report contained, the finances for the current company as it stands out is outlined, and there is 100,000 of surplus held by apprentices on the closure that would be transferred to CUFLA to support those young people across South East Wales. CUFLA has currently working with over 95 apprentices, and over the last 5 years have supported 780 apprentices. We've carried out in the local authority due diligence checks on CUFLA from an audit and legal point of view. If this is accepted today and this then goes forward to Cabinet, there is a caveat in terms of the objectives of the Articles of Association of CUFLA, which are very much the same as ePrentice, which would need to be changed to include South West Wales. I think I've covered everything off in my report. And I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Councillor Edwards.
Thank you, Chair. I've got about 4 questions, but as you know, I have to leave as a matter of emergency, so I'll probably let the Chair ask some of them. One of the main concerns for me is, as the proposed project, as you've described it, within the CUFLA Shared Building Skills Apprenticeship Scheme, what guarantees do we have that the scheme will be high enough profile and we're not just a small part of a bigger beast? I know you touched on it there. I guess I would like a reassurance is that all the councils with a stake in this company are equals, and is there any evidence to suggest that it being run by 3 organisations based in West Wales, the ideal way forward? I mean, I love West Wales, but it's a bit like a different country compared to here in terms of when you want them to actually perform this function for us over in this part of Wales.
Thank you, Councillor Edwards. Throughout this process, I have been meeting regularly with CAFLA, and I'm very confident in terms of the delivery model, in terms of their business focus, in terms of their presence. I've also met with Welsh Government in the consideration of how this will work. The ownership... That's okay. The ownership of the company sits in West Wales, but there's a clear desire to expand into East Wales, and I'm very confident that the match is fit for purpose going forward.
Okay, thank you. Taking a look at the current company that you want to close, the Apprentice, I'm unaware of the historical figures of apprentices from Monmouthshire in the past. However, the current figure from September 2024, as the report outlines, is 1 out of 60 apprentices in the 10 local authorities. It's not really a figure we can be proud of. Now, I appreciate the figures for the more heavily populated counties are not that much higher, but as expected, you'd expect them to be a little bit higher. Overall, it doesn't seem that successful and also demonstrate good value for money in the county. So I'd be grateful for a bit more background on this. And also, it's a bit concerning that the fact that the report gives the impression that existing organisations are turning their back on supporting Apprentice. That doesn't look good either. It mentions, and I quote, that obviously the company was established in 2012 and helped train 340 apprentices and secured more than, just under £2 million in funding. Is that a Monmouthshire figure, or is it a 10-county figure? Also, my other questions are, the report mentions a recommendation that MCC has a seat on the new directors board. Assuming this will be a cabinet member position as with the current company, or is an officer more suitable? I'm thinking of the current cabinet member who it's likely to be, and his portfolio seems to be getting bigger and bigger, and with the RLDP as well, does he really have the time to sort of watch over this with a careful eye? And do we have any idea of how often the board meets and the role of directors in taking the schemes planned forward? And my final question, it should be of great concern that completion rates have declined significantly during the last 3 years and seems to be getting worse. Do we have any feedback from apprentices themselves on the reasons why, and what has been done to try and remedy this over the last 2 years? For instance, less than half completed in 2022, and it's got progressively worse, as I said. Also, as this has 2 funding sources, grant and host employer, what is the feedback from employers, and how has this been constructively dealt with to make an attempt to improve things on the situation? Thank you.
Wow, thank you, Councillor Edwards. Okay, I think I've captured, and please come back to me if I haven't captured all those questions. The first point you picked up is around the 1 apprentice in Monmouthshire currently, and the figure then is in total 60 across the region. We have supported the team in trying to source further opportunities in Monmouthshire over the past, I would say, 4 years or more, really, in looking at how we can increase that opportunity and appetite. Unfortunately, that hasn't come to fruition. The apprenticeship field and landscape is quite a complex piece. And although I alluded to earlier, we are doing a piece with our significant businesses in Monmouthshire, looking at how we can support them. I know this is not the construction field, in sector, in terms of growing those opportunities and growing those skills within our own county. And it's unfortunate that it is a regional project, and as you alluded to, you would expect to see higher numbers in other authorities across the region. The piece then you mentioned around the background information in terms of the level 3 qualification and the decline in completion rates. I think there's been a real struggle with some learners throughout the learning process, and other barriers have perhaps come in the way. We've spoken to Welsh Government, and in England, as you remember, where they do a level 2 qualification in construction, whereas in Wales they don't, and that will come in the future, but not immediately. And I think there is concerns around those expectations of entry point and exit points. But I take on board Councillor Edwards in terms of those declining completion rates is a real concern. And from speaking to CUFLA, they're fully aware of those figures, and the conversations we're having in terms of turning those figures around really going forward. You mentioned then about one of the recommendations in terms of a seat on the board. I would imagine, in my head, it's my opinion, we're looking at an officer level, not as a cabinet member. I think it's having the knowledge of what's going on in the region that I can bring back to committee and to cabinet to perhaps dampen some of those concerns that have been raised, and that things go forward in a real positive and progressive rate for those young people on the scheme currently. Have I answered all of your questions, Councillor Edwards? I'm not sure.
I'm not sure, actually. I think you haven't covered whether the 340 apprentices were Monmouthshire ones or whether they were the 10-county figure.
They were a 10-county figure, and they would proportionately, the numbers for Monmouthshire would probably reflect where we have one currently proportionate. I think we probably had a maximum of 3 at any one time from Monmouthshire.
Thank you. Now, Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Chair. Hi, Hannah. I can remember the time when The Apprentice was launched and the excitement that it generated, because it was so full of hope. But, you know, by taking away the level 2 in its entirety is going to reduce numbers considerably, because that's where most of the numbers are that come from, and they progress. If they do well in 2, they progress to 3, but a lot of them can't go straight into level 3. So that's very sad. Having said that, I've looked at the options, obviously, post the review, and I do have some, geographical concerns, I suppose, because option 3, which is obviously the one that we're going to support, states that lack of knowledge of there's going to be a lack of knowledge of the region in South East Wales, and also a lack of capacity at this stage, where they hope to be able to come in and find suitable businesses, etc., in areas of operation to support. But if we couldn't do that, are they going to be able to do that? And in the end, is it a geographical concern that our apprentices won't be able to travel to where the nearest business is? I don't know. It just remains a concern that. What have CUFLA said about coming into the region? Have they done any research? Do they have any answers?
Yeah. Sorry, Penny, Councillor Jones. They have engaged with colleges in the region already. Right. They're having conversations with some of those contractors. There's a real excitement in terms of coming into the region. I feel that they feel there isn't huge barriers. They feel that they're building up the knowledge. The conversations are continuing with Welsh Government, MEDA, and although stated in terms of a lack of could be a risk in terms of lack of knowledge, and I understand your challenge on that. From the conversations I have with them, I feel that that is now unfolding and further conversations are going on across the region. Obviously, we're at a stage where this is coming here for approval to Cabinet for the decision, but they're starting to have those conversations in the region.
Right, and have they said that they will retain?
Yes.
The staff in particular,
yes.
obviously.
Yes. Yes.
I'm still very concerned, why couldn't we find, we'll use the existing provision, but also find more. But having said that, I do feel, my own view is that we have to support this because, apprenticeship is such an important area, isn't it? It's a way forward for so many young people. But perhaps I could suggest that, we have feedback about this progress.
Of course.
On a regular basis, Chair. I don't know. But thank you, Hannah.
Thank you, Councillor Jones.
Thank you. Councillor Riley.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Hannah. I agree with a lot of things that Councillor Penny Jones has just said, and I completely understand why we would accept the recommendation, because the current project appears to be failing, and the Coupler project looks to be successful, so that seems to be a no-brainer. But I feel that there is a lack of analysis in the report as to why all of those things, which would include, do we actually need it? It says that we can't recruit quality apprentices. Do we have any? Do we have a need for it? It's just that there isn't that level of analysis as far as I can see within the report. It says that some apprentices haven't been paid. Why have they not been paid? Is it because they haven't completed? Is it because they've not been turning up? So who is supervising them? There isn't an explanation. So I apologise if I seem a little harsh, but I think without that analysis within the report, I'm sort of coming to some of my own conclusions, which make me feel a bit uncomfortable. So why can't we recruit? What will we get back? It says that in 3.1.5 that apprentice has a vision to provide long-term sustainable apprenticeships, but it hasn't, and there's no analysis of why it hasn't. So I am struggling with that a little bit. You say that we've got key successes, but all I can really see a figure for is the achieving of the grants. And I don't see that if we've achieved a grant, probably of public money, but we have little success, I don't see that as a key success, but it may be that I am misinterpreting, so I apologise for that.
Okay.
The risk grid basically says the risks of apprentices not complete. Are those existing apprentices? Because they're not completing them anyway, are they? As far as I can see from your figures. Or the redeployment of staff. So if we don't need them, why are we redeploying them? And the risk of reputation, and I'm struggling with that one a little bit because I can't see the reputation if it's a failing project. So I really want to know is there a need for this? In which case, why haven't we achieved it? And what do we have to learn from this, rather than what it feels as though we're passing something over? So yeah, I suppose really I want some sort of answers to are we just passing a ball that somebody's not going to get over the line? Sorry, thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to pass over to Will a minute, my colleague.
Thanks, Hannah. Good afternoon, councillors. Will McLean. I'm the Strategic Director for Learning, Skills and the Economy. Thank you for your questions, Councillor Riley, and I think they get to to the heart of the matter in many ways for where we are with Apprentice. Apprentice was conceived and constructed, a significant time ago, and at that time was fit for purpose and met the needs of what our aspirations were as an authority and as a county at that time in terms of what we were hoping to achieve with apprenticeships. I think the completion of 340 apprenticeships in that period of time, albeit one in which we see, completion rates not being necessarily at the level that we might wish to see, is something to be celebrated in that period. But I think really we're in a position now whereby the scheme is no longer the scheme that we need in Monmouthshire to deliver for our children and young people and for our industries. And so it's this position of coming to a point whereby there are young people currently in apprenticeships, and it's really important that we give them the security of them completing their qualifications, which will be a passport to their future lives and their qualifications and their ability to work in the future. So I think it's really important that we do this in a really transparent way, which I think the papers are transparent. I think the papers really clearly set out what has been the performance and what hasn't been the performance. We have, after a significant amount of time, been able to find agreement with a willing partner, which I think is really important. So we can pass over the apprenticeships that are in existence, they can conclude their work, and that gives us the opportunity to find a vehicle which is more suited to the needs of our children and young people. I think Hannah's referenced importantly the differential between the level 2 and the level 3 apprenticeships. It might well be actually for many of the young people in Monmouthshire, actually what they wanted to achieve was a level 2 apprenticeship. In actually moving the bar to level 3, that's actually quite a significant difference, and that might be a key factor in terms of the level of completion that we're seeing now. So it's about us really understanding kind of the two flows really, the one which is what our young people hope to achieve as they come through school, and recognising that there is a wide bandwidth in terms of children and young people who want to achieve academic outcomes and those who are pursuing vocational outcomes. And then also from the other end of the pipeline, as it were, really understanding what the businesses that we're seeking to grow in Monmouthshire need, and then a new opportunity being created where those two come together. So I think your questions are really appropriate, but I do think that this is the right thing in allowing those apprenticeships to conclude their studies and achieve their qualifications, and allow us to now think about what we can develop for Monmouthshire in the future.
Thank you. Are you satisfied that's enough information, Councillor Riley?
I'm still in that position of not understanding what we need, and where is the analysis for that? It seems a little guesswork. I'm sorry.
No, that's absolutely fine. I think in terms of what we need, I think, whilst it maybe not drawn out explicitly, I think the fact that there is one student from Monmouthshire following this route clearly suggests that there's not an appetite and an engagement within the authority for this qualification route. So I think we can take that as the as is, that this isn't meeting, and that's not to say it won't meet the needs of children in other local authorities, and we can clearly see that in other LAs that there remains an appetite, but we can see that it's not meeting our need at the moment, or else there would be a higher number of participants there. I think the next steps and the work that Hannah and colleagues are doing to consider what we need in the future would usefully come back to this committee at a future date, and that would allow you to then see the current as-is state, but then the future state that we want to try and create.
I suppose the one burning question for me is how proactively have we sought to recruit? Because there must be people who want these skills, but we're not getting them. And that isn't clear. Have we? Where do we advertise? How do we? It seems that we've been working very hard and not getting anywhere, but I don't know how you've been doing that work. But obviously, a couple seem to be more successful at it. I'm just concerned that we've been walking through treacle, and I still don't know whether we need this or not. So anyway, but I'm just repeating myself now, so I'll shut up.
All right, thank you, Councillor. Are we going to move to Councillor Butler? I'm sorry, Councillor Powell first.
Thank you. Quite a quick one, really. Well, I hope it'll be, well, I'm sure it will be quick enough. We're hearing all about these apprenticeships and how many and what's doing this, that and the other. But what I'm really interested in is, after the apprenticeships, do we know how many of them actually end up in permanent jobs? Because otherwise, if they've done all this apprenticeship and then just got a bit of a job for a certain length of time and then it doesn't go anywhere, it hasn't worked. And I wonder, have we got any record at all of the completed apprentices having got permanent jobs?
Thank you, Councillor Powell, for your question. A great question. As we said in the beginning, in terms of those 340 were completed apprentices over the past of the lifetime of the scheme, those are the figures that we would say have sustained sustainable employment. Now, in terms of a more detailed breakdown, I haven't got those, but I would be able to get them and provide them to you.
You know, it would be interesting to know what's going on afterwards.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Powell. Now you, Councillor Butler.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Hannah, and thank you, Will. I think I've got clarity now on this. You know, it seems to me in this drive to upskill to level 3, somewhere along the way, this scheme has sort of shot itself in the foot a bit, because having worked with 15 and 16-year-olds quite a long time, I do know that young men who want to go into construction, by the time they get to 17 and they've done a bit in college and they know how to lay a few bricks and so on, they're just champing at the bit to get out there. So that level 3 is something that they don't value, I don't think, because there's always businesses that will take them on with a very minimal level of skills, and there's quite a lot of pressure and camaraderie within these businesses to get young men working. So you know, it's quite a complex field, isn't it? And while we'd like them to be upskilled, they don't necessarily want to be upskilled themselves. But I suppose my question really is you know, what do we do? I think it's very sensible to let, you know, the apprenticeship scheme run on, you know, with this can't say it, Cuffler proposal until they're completed. But you know, what are we going to do with those level 2s? Where are they going to train? In Monmouthshire, or will they have to be going out from Monmouthshire to do their training? And I suppose the other question is are we very short of businesses that will take them on, you know, into getting some work experience? You know, that there seems to be sort of 2 areas to this. So where do we go next, I suppose, is what I'm really asking. And thank you.
Thank you for your question, Councillor Butler. In terms of where do we go next, and as we've said throughout this afternoon, in terms of the skill centre proposal, as you're probably aware, we haven't got a training provider based in Monmouthshire. We will be carrying out a piece of work with our businesses to look at those skills shortages, to look at whether there's opportunities for work experience, to look at the level of skill required for future jobs in Monmouthshire. So part of this piece is for us is we've started conversations with our significant businesses as part of our STEM project in schools, which is really exciting. And those conversations is gathering that data analysis now going forward in terms of what are the needs of our young people and our industries of the future. So thank you for your question.
Thank you, Councillor Butler. Any further questions, councillors? Councillor Strong.
Thank you, and thanks, Hannah, for the report. I find it a bit concerning that we only had one apprentice apprenticeship sort of going sort of in the last sort of quarter, really. And I guess all this has come into head because of the changes with Melin going towards Newport. And maybe it is the chance to have a relook at what's going on and look to the future. And actually, as Will said, look at the needs of the employers out there, as well as the youngsters coming through that need it needs to have that conversation about what the future might look like. My one concern is the Cyfle company being in sort of West Wales and not really having a base sort of locally. But I guess time will tell, won't it, really? But it's about supporting those youngsters out there to actually get qualifications so that they get future work.
Thank you, Councillor Strong, for your comments.
Lovely. Thank you, councillors. So just before we go to deciding which option we would like to endorse, just going to go over what we've discussed so far. So I'm seeing concerns about whether overseeing this could be a little much for the cabinet member given their existing portfolio, and perhaps whether this should be an officer rather than the cabinet member. I think that's something that we can ask them to consider, and how operationally the workload would be managed. Perhaps the decline in completion rates we felt was due to a lack of level 2 rather than only offering a level 3 option, and whether more apprentices could progress to level 3 if they were able to enter at level 2, and that could increase completion rates as well. And so that's a conversation I think that needs to happen with the Welsh Government. And repeatedly I've heard concerns about a lack of knowledge and connections to South East Wales because Cyfle is based in West Wales. Whether that create travel issues for apprenticeships, whether local businesses in Monmouthshire will be sufficiently engaged. Although we have had some assurance that Cyfle are going to retain existing Monmouthshire staff. I think it would be reasonable for us to request regular updates on how this is progressing and how Cyfle are performing for Monmouthshire. Does anybody feel there's anything else I'd like to add? Good, thank you. So we just... Councillor Riley.
So if we ask for regular updates, aren't we already committed by then anyway? So I'm not quite sure at what point. I still don't know if we need it, and I still don't know what we're going to get out of it. So if we're asking for regular updates, what do we do if it's not good enough?
Thanks, Councillor Riley. Thank you. So what we're asking to do is to cease our engagement in the apprentice. So once this kind of tranche of learners will come through, then our responsibilities and our engagement with the apprentice scheme will have been passported across into Cyfle, and there will be some engagement because I think, as Hannah's indicated, we're likely to have officer representation on their board, and we'll be able to see then if there is potentially an uptick in the participation of level 3 construction apprenticeships in the area, or that we're able to maintain that provision potentially. So we can continue to do that. It's about the onus of the responsibility of our ownership of the scheme that we're seeking to divest ourselves from at the minute. So it still moves over to Cyfle. They continue to do it. It's the change in the governance structure that is the important thing that we're seeking to achieve now. In the meantime, and I think the point which I was saying in terms of bringing back to this committee is that commitment that we will bring our future plans, because there are kind of developing plans around how we can support our youngsters who are keen to pursue vocational pathways into employment in a different way. So there are 2 levels of commitment for this committee. One is that future shape of vocational training in Monmouthshire, and the other part is ensuring that any decisions that are taken by Cabinet in terms of the provision of what was the apprentice scheme is properly reported back through. So those are the 2 commitments that we're offering the committee today.
Great, thank you.
Penny said her computer's just died, but she wants me to tell you that she wants to vote for option 3.
Thank you, Councillor Powell. Councillor Riley, are you satisfied with that answer?
Not really, but
I think that's as far as we're going to get today.
yeah.
Right, councillors, so you will see at table 1 of the report, the options appraisal. So I'll quickly run through our 3 options, which 1 is just the cessation of apprentice. 2 is the cessation of apprentice and apprentice transferred to MCC. And our 3rd option is the cessation of apprentice and apprentice becoming a project, which comes under COVLA. I think if we go around one by one and just state our preferred option, that would be useful. Right, I'm going to start with who's in the chamber. Councillor Powell, which is your preferred option? Option 3, thank you. And we know Councillor Jones's preferred option was also option 3. Option 3 from Councillor Strong. Councillor Riley.
I don't think I have enough information to make an informed decision, so I'm going to abstain.
No problem. Councillor Butler.
Option 3, please.
Councillor Peter Strong.
Option 3, please.
And it's an option 3 from me as well. So that's quite clearly our decision is the cessation of apprentice and it transferred to a project coming under COVLA. Sorry, yes, as we know, we don't make that decision, but we are endorsing that as an option. Thank you both, Will and Hannah, for your time. Yeah. Right, councillors, we are now going to move on to item 5, which is the People Scrutiny Committee Forward Work Programme and Action List. You should all have a copy of our Forward Work Programme. You can see, for example, our next meeting has the Audit Wales report on hospital discharge and the pre-decision scrutiny on play sufficiency assessment. Longer term, are there any items not currently on our Forward Work Programme that we feel should be added? Councillor Strong.
Can I just say, in the light of the Supreme Court decision a week last Wednesday, that we might actually want to relook at some of the council policies on inclusion, diversity, and possibly the impact assessment. I know we're waiting guidance from Welsh Government as per the announcement of what the Welsh First Minister yesterday, but I'd just like to put that out there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Strong. That's noted. Anybody else?
Can I just say, as regards Jackie Strong, that which is very important. Sorry, Jackie. I'm not sure that this would be the committee for that.
Something you could bring up.
Okay, so I was just checking, sorry. You maybe see on our 22nd of July meeting, we do have our strategic equality plan coming for performance monitoring. So I wonder whether that could be something that came up under that item. Okay, councillors. Council and Cabinet Work Planner, does anybody have anything they'd like to raise in relation to that item? I don't see any hands. Okay. The minutes of our meeting held on the 18th of February and on the 4th of March. Are we happy to accept those as an accurate record? Councillor Powell is proposing them, so I think we'll take those as agreed. And right, that concludes our business for today, councillors. Thank you very much. And our next meeting is on the 17th of June at 10 a.m. Right, get out and enjoy the lovely weather.